We all love going to these fun places like amusement parks or theme parks, but sometimes horrifying things happen.
And some of them have even cost some people their lives.
So today, we're going to look at the worst theme park incidents ever. Make sure to like and subscribe so you can stay strapped, guys. The video that you are going to watch now will tell you about the scary story of the Alpine Slide.
This is the Alpine Slide, also known as the Skin Ripper. My dad actually has scars from this ride, but unfortunately it has caused deaths. It was a concrete fiberglass track where visitors drove small wheeled carts down a hillside. These carts had brakes and accelerators that you could control, and unfortunately, usually these sticks were broken.
OMG, how didn't the participants notice broken sticks in the first place? Like I would have never risked my life just for some adrenaline boost.
The tracks had turns and bumps, and accidents were quite frequent. People would often lose control and collide into the barriers. This resulted in scrapes, skin burns, bruises, and sometimes even broken bones. Having wounds from this ride was kind of like a rite of passage at Action Park. Now, George Larson Jr. was 19 and visiting the park with his friend. The brake on his sled was broken, which caused the sled to run off the track. He was thrown off of the ride and hit his head on nearby rocks. This sent him into a coma and he did not survive.
This is so scary. I will not go and ride this in my life.
And of course, I mean, no disrespect to his family, this is his story. Now, the founder of Action Park, Gene Mulliville, told reporters that he was an employee, he was riding at night, and it had been raining. And his family says that literally none of those things are true. And he said this to the public because if Larson was an employee, he wasn't required to report this death to the state.
I mean, that's some dirty politics going on there. Would you believe these claims? 'Cause I wouldn't.
Now, based on the reports from just 1 year of this ride being open, there were 14 fractures and 26 head injuries just from this ride.
Theme parks are supposed to be places of fun and excitement. But honestly, after seeing that, I don't think I could ever step foot in one again. The more you look into these so-called thrill rides, the scarier it gets, because what's meant to be entertainment can turn into a nightmare in seconds. And trust me, the next clip you're about to see will make you think twice before ever getting on one again.
We have a massive update on the people that were stuck upside down for over an hour.
Over an hour? Are you serious?
And this will make you never want to ride a ride ever again. So this took place during a middle school field trip in Portland, Oregon. And the full story behind this gets insane. Because not only are people saying that they're never going on a roller coaster again, but that the people that were stuck upside down for so long are going to have permanent effects. Because they were on so long, and even doctors have been saying that this is going to have a lot of issues. Because with too much blood to the brain, but now the people that were on the ride are finally talking about it. This guy just said that it was really scary. This guy said, still bleeping suffering from severe migraines due to being trapped upside down for 26 minutes at Oaks Park. Another person says, I was on this ride at Oaks Park with my little brother. He fainted and still has a migraine.
Migraine? Lol. No disrespect to the victims, though.
We were forced to finish the ride, which was awful. But this guy, Stu, left the funniest comment I've ever seen. Oh, isn't Stu so funny?
Imagine actually being stuck upside down, like that blood rushing to your head, trapped for almost half an hour. People might laugh online, but for the ones on that ride, it was pure fear, and it could have ended so much worse. Theme parks are supposed to be fun, but moments like this remind you how thin the line between thrill and danger really is. And trust me, the next clip doesn't just prove it, it takes it to a whole new level.
On June 21st, 2007, Caitlin got on the Tower of Power, a drop tower ride that simulates a 154-foot fall. She and her two friends rode the ride once and had no problems. There was a short line as the park was oddly dead, so they decided to ride again. But this time, the ride was different. As the seat moved up, about 20 feet off the ground, the cart jolted and began jerking around violently. She then heard a whipping sound and smelled smoke, as if something was burning.
It's already getting scary. Would you be able to handle what happens next?
Tragically, the sound she heard was one of the ride's many cables snapping. A cable then dropped directly down on top of Caitlin, splitting her lip and coming to rest across her legs. The ride began its descent, and unfortunately for Caitlin, the cable across her legs tightened, and in an instance of twisted fate, wrapped around her ankles, shattering her left femur and severing both of her feet.
That was honestly so terrifying. I still can't believe something like that actually happened. I really feel bad for Caitlin because she just went there to have fun, and it turned into her worst nightmare. I don't think I could ever trust those drop tower rides again after this. They look fun, but one small mistake can change everything. Never forget, Lily's even the safest looking rides can be the most dangerous, so please be careful out there. This next incident is seriously shocking, and it's called the Tower of Terror accident. Lily's, this one's terrifying because what was supposed to be a fun ride turned into a real-life nightmare. In 1998, a malfunction caused several riders to be rushed to the hospital after 2 bolts snapped mid-drop. Let's take a look at what really happened that day.
This is the terrifying Tower of Terror accident they don't want you to know about. I went to Disneyland this year, and if I'd known about this, I would never have let my brothers go on this ride.
Wyatt feels she's gonna say something too terrifying.
It was September 1998 at Disney World in Florida. And part of the Tower of Terror ride is that it's essentially a crazy lift shaft that goes up an incredible height and then drops suddenly from the top. It opens, you can see the entire park, and then you're suddenly jerking up and down. So guests are expecting kind of jerky drops and sudden free falls. Side note, interestingly, it was actually a company that manufactured real lifts that did make this ride. But on this particular occasion, 20 guests were strapped into the elevator car when all of a sudden all hell broke loose.
20 guests? That's so much horrifying.
They were expecting a scary ride, but they weren't expecting a terrifying malfunction. Suddenly, as the riders were in the air, the pulley mechanism broke. Bolts had essentially come loose and it had caused the cables to totally snap. The car started falling at a crazy speed before finally, thankfully, the emergency brakes kicked in. But by this point, 7 of the riders had been lunged forward and injured, and they were rushed to hospital. Thankfully, nobody died, and serious injuries were avoided because of the shock absorbers at the bottom of the shaft. It goes without saying that the ride was temporarily closed while they figured out what the hell had happened here, and obviously they eventually fixed it and reopened it. Have any of you guys been brave enough to go on this ride? Because honestly, it looks like absolute hell to me.
That was honestly so terrifying. I can't imagine what those people went through during that drop. It's crazy to think that something built for fun could break that easily and send people straight to the hospital. I really hope everyone who was hurt made a full recovery. Rides like these might look exciting, but one small failure can turn a thrill into a nightmare. Be careful out there, Lilies, because the next incident we're about to look at is even worse. This next incident is heartbreaking, and it's called the Quito the Orca case. Lilies, this one's different because it didn't happen on a roller coaster or a drop tow. It happened in a tank. In 2009, a trainer named Alexis Martinez lost his life after an orca named Quito suddenly turned aggressive during a rehearsal at Loro Parque in Tenerife, Spain. What was meant to be a simple practice show became one of the most tragic theme park accidents in history. Let's take a look at what really happened that day.
A comment I got a lot on my Telecom video was that the other human fatality caused by a captive orca was caused by one of Telecom's calves, and that is not true. It was actually caused by this orca right here named Quito.
Imagine getting hurt by such cute creature. Who would you blame? Comment after watching the whole incident.
The orcas were kept in a habitat way too small for them. They didn't have any stimulation other than their trainers. Orcas, like I mentioned, are also a matriarchal type society. So when Quito was there, they had the added stress of not having any dominant females in the pod. So the males were all fighting to kind of be in charge and were being aggressive towards one another. On Christmas Eve of 2009, 29-year-old trainer Alexis Martinez was working with Quito when Quito began to lose interest in the task that he was performing. He'd been underwater when Alexis made one of the calls and he didn't hear it, so he didn't get rewarded. He got a neutral response and he just started getting annoyed with the whole thing, understandably. Another trainer noticed that he was starting to get kind of restless, so he said, okay, Alexis, you swim away slowly, I'll get Quito back over here and kind of reinforce him. But Quito noticed and swam straight towards Alexis and quickly pulled him under the water and rammed him in the chest, which caused Alexis to die from massive internal bleeding. And just like in the other Telecom stories, they had to try and distract Quito while they were trying to recover Alexis's remains. And if you've seen Blackfish, you know that the park tried to lie about Alexis's condition to his family, probably because they knew, this is bad. They told his fiance he was fine, and then they told his family that he died an accidental death with no violence involved. And just 2 months after Alexis's death, Dawn was killed by Telecom in SeaWorld Orlando. So obviously, this didn't cause any changes in the training protocol or really raise any red flags for anyone. In the summer of 2018, SeaWorld actually just gave these orcas over to Laurel Park, probably because SeaWorld ended its, captive breeding program or whatever. And something I thought was kind of crazy is that they still have these orcas performing at Laurel Park, including Keto. They just experience firsthand their ability to understand sound and light language. So I don't know. I can't really find out if they're still working directly with trainers in the water. I know SeaWorld stopped doing that, but I'm not sure about Laurel Park.
That was honestly so heartbreaking. I can't even imagine how terrifying that must have been for Alexis in those final moments. Orcas are incredibly intelligent, but keeping them trapped in tiny tanks for entertainment will always end in tragedy. Keto wasn't just an animal, he was a prisoner reacting to years of stress and isolation. I really hope parks around the world learn from this and stop using animals like him for shows. Never forget, Lily's not every theme park accident happens on a ride. Sometimes it happens behind the glass. This next story is truly chilling, and it's called The Disappearance Inside the Orlando Theme Park. Lily's, this one's every parent's worst nightmare, a young girl who walked into a theme park and was never seen again. It all started when her family visited one of the most famous parks in Orlando. Everything seemed normal until she went to the bathroom and never came back. Security searched the entire park, but there was no sign of her anywhere. No footage, no witnesses, nothing. What really happened that day still remains a mystery to this day. Let's take a look at the disturbing case of the girl who vanished inside the happiest place on Earth.
Did you know a 4-year-old girl vanished inside a bathroom at a famous theme park? And security cameras proved she was never there. Her name was Emma Rodriguez. On October 18th, she was at the park in Orlando with her mother, Sarah. Emma asked to use the bathroom inside the restaurant. Her mom said yes. It was only 20 feet away. 5 minutes later, Sarah went to check on her. What she saw destroyed her life. A man in a park uniform was dragging Emma through a door in the bathroom floor. Sarah screamed and ran toward them. The metal door slammed shut. When security arrived, they found nothing. Then they showed Sarah the security footage. Sarah walked into the bathroom alone. She walked out alone. Emma was never on camera.
OMG, was this a story of a movie? Or this type of mental illness really occur?
Police and doctors declared Sarah insane. She was committed to a psychiatric hospital that same night. The case was closed within 48 hours. Park officials said Sarah had a psychotic break. No missing person report was ever filed because Emma never existed. But here's what they don't want you to know. Theme parks have massive underground tunnel systems. Employees use them every single day, but these tunnels aren't on any public blueprints. In the last 10 years, over 30 children have disappeared from theme parks across America. Every single parent described the same thing. Every single parent was declared mentally unstable. Not one case was ever investigated as a kidnapping. Sarah is still in that hospital. She's been there for 3 years. She still swears she saw what she saw. Emma Rodriguez was never found. According to every record, she was never born. Tell me what you think is really happening. Write your country and I'll make a video from there.
That was honestly so disturbing. Just imagine going to a theme park for a fun day and someone you love vanishes without a trace. No cameras, no answers, no goodbye, just gone. It's crazy how a place that calls itself the happiest on earth can hide such dark and haunting stories. Be careful, Lilies, because sometimes the scariest rides aren't the ones you get on. They're the ones you never come back from. This next story is one of the most disturbing accidents in Disney history, and it's called the Deborah Galestone incident. Lilies, this one happened back in 1974 inside the America Sings ride, a place that was supposed to celebrate music and fun. Deborah Galestone was only 18 years old and loved her job at Disneyland. But one night, while she was welcoming guests, something went horribly wrong. Let's take a look at what really happened that night and why Disney has stayed silent about it for decades.
This incident sounds like it was taken straight from Final Destination, but it was 100% real and people were there when it happened. This slideshow first starts off by showing an image of a young woman by the name of Deborah Galestone, then an image of a Disney attraction by the name of America Sings, and finally the outline of a woman's body on a wall.
America Sings would have never been the same again.
This incident happened nearly 51 years ago in 1974, shortly after this attraction opened up, America Sings, at Disneyland. The attraction featured a rotating stage. Every single time one of the songs finished, it would turn and a new scene would be presented to the viewers. Deborah decided to take a job as the hostess for this attraction, and partway through one of the shows, she found herself trapped between one of the moving walls and a stationary one. She either fell or was sitting in this area, so when the stage turned, she got crushed. She did scream. The audience members thought it was part of the show, until later they checked on her and they found her deceased. Shockingly, after the incident happened, America Sings was shut down for only 2 to 3 days before they eventually reopened it.
That was honestly one of the saddest stories I've ever talked about. Deborah was just 18, full of dreams, working at the happiest place on earth. But that night, the magic turned into tragedy, and the sound of her screams still haunts those who were there, especially given Para, who witnessed everything. Disney quietly changed the ride's design after the accident, but nothing could erase what happened to her. So next time you're on a ride that moves, remember Deborah Gale Stone, because behind every smile and song, there's a story Disneyland doesn't want you to know. But the next video that you will see is about the people in Ohio still talking about a theme park that was never supposed to exist. They called it Greasy Grove. No one remembers when it opened, and no one remembers it closing. It just vanished. But some swear they've seen it, glowing in the distance with rides still moving, even though no one's there. What happened inside that park still haunts anyone who's ever gone looking for it.
Why is this never talked about? In the mid-1960s, Greasy Grove, Ohio thrived under the enchantment of Otto Graff's Imagination Wonderland. Otto, the charismatic owner, enchanted visitors with his warm greetings at the park's entrance, transforming the town into an economic hub, drawing crowds from across the nation. However, as the early 1970s unfolded, Otto's presence waned, leaving whispers of retirement or illness spread among the townsfolk. In 1976, Jay Walker, a new employee tasked with cleaning the park's underground tunnels, stumbled upon a peculiar yellow door amid a sea of red. Jay would try to open the yellow door, but it was locked, so he would just shrug it off and continue on with his janitorial duties. But at the end of his shift after the park closed, he noticed that the yellow door was cracked open. Curious, wanting to take a look inside, he would open the door. He quickly realized that it was Otto's old office. But as he got farther into the office, he noticed another door and would open it. But what he saw behind that door left the town of Greasy Grove in disbelief.
That story gives me chills every time. A theme park that shows up out of nowhere, then disappears like it was never real? I don't know about you, but if I ever see those lights in the distance, I'm driving the other way. Because some rides, once you get on, you never come back from. The next clip will leave you horrifying. We say Disneyland is the happiest place on earth, but for one woman, it became her final destination. This story is about Dolly Young, who went on the Matterhorn bobsleds ride in 1984 and never made it out alive. Somewhere in the dark tunnels of that mountain, something went horribly wrong. Some say she unbuckled her seatbelt. Others believe it was a malfunction. But what happened next left everyone in shock.
Let's talk about another one of the worst things to ever happen at Disney. This time we're talking about a woman who was decapitated riding Matterhorn.
So many incidents occurring at Disney. Would you dare to go again? Or do you think these have 1 in a million chances?
On January 3rd of 1984, 48-year-old Dolly Young and her friends board Matterhorn at around 3:30. Dolly is seated in the back of this ride with her friends in front of her. About halfway through the ride, Dolly falls out of the slide. Nobody knows exactly how it all went down, but they know that when they got back to the station, her friends noticed she was missing, her seat was empty, and the seatbelt was unbuckled. So as for Dolly, she falls out of the ride, and she's stuck on the tracks. She's attempting to get up, but the next cart comes in just 30 seconds.
30 seconds? Really? That must have been the deadliest encounter ever for the victim and the riders as well.
This leaves her very little time to get up, and by now, the next cart, which has a dad and his 2 daughters in it, comes crashing into Dolly's head, taking it off and slicing into her torso. The dad reportedly told his daughters to look away as he realized what was happening as it was happening. The cart would literally get stuck on Dolly, and the motion sensors would go off, that there was a stalled cart, so people would come rushing to the scene, paramedics and all, and Dolly would be gone. An investigation would be launched, with Disney going on to say there's no way they left the station without her seatbelt being buckled, and so yeah, no one really knows exactly how the seatbelt got unbuckled, but they ruled it as an accident. The ride would close that day, but be open the next.
That was honestly horrifying. Just imagine a fun ride through the dark and in a split second, everything ends. What's even scarier is that the ride reopened the very next day, as if nothing happened. Park workers still say they feel cold spots on that same track, right where Dolly lost her life. Maybe it's just coincidence, or maybe her spirit never left the mountain. The next clip is dangerous, because once you hear this story, you won't stop thinking about it. It's called the Strange Lake Bodom case, one of the most chilling mysteries in true crime history. In 1960, 4 teenagers went camping by a quiet lake in Finland, but by morning, 3 of them were dead, and the 4th was barely alive. No one knows who did it or why, and what investigators found at the campsite still doesn't make sense to this day.
In 1960, a teenage girl was out camping with 3 of her friends when she awoke to the sound of footsteps at about 4 in the morning. Due to the isolation of their campsite, she immediately knew something was wrong. She tried to shake her friends awake, who groggily sat up, questioning what was going on. Before she could answer, something hard swung through the side of the tent, striking one of the teenagers with potentially lethal force. They desperately tried to scramble out of the entrance, but the attacker kept swinging, forcing them to stay put. The attacker then pulled out a knife and once again started slashing at the tent. After a few swipes, there was enough of an opening for the teenagers to fight back. They tried their absolute hardest, but being caught off guard and tangled in the remnants of a 4-person tent didn't give them much of a fair fight. But one of the boys, Niels Gustafsson, caught a glimpse of the attacker. He was a man dressed in black with what appeared to be bright red eyes. Before he could get a closer look, the attacker struck him in the head and knocked him out. Gustafsson was found unconscious the next morning with severe facial fractures and defensive wounds. His 3 friends didn't survive. Due to the brutal and traumatic manner of the attack, he had suffered amnesia. The details told through this story were mainly recalled through either evidence analysis or hypnotherapy, which has a shaky reputation at best. And decades later, the police realized that his story was highly suspicious. He was the only survivor and didn't have nearly as many knife wounds as his friends did.
Only one survivor, and it took them so long to suspect him. I am never camping again with my friends without proper security. Would you camp with friends?
Additionally, his shoes were found partially hidden about 500 meters away with his friend's blood all over them. This led to a trial, which ultimately found him not guilty. But if Niels didn't do it, then who did? Well, one person noticed that in this photo of one of the teenagers' funerals, there appears to be a man who nearly perfectly matches the police sketch. Despite this, nobody could confidently identify him. One of the more interesting suspects was Hans Assmann, who reportedly visited a hospital the next morning with blood all over his clothes. Additionally, he was connected to another unsolved murder. However, he would later be proven to have lied about several major details of his life and had an alibi. Despite having several intriguing suspects, the police never conclusively found the killer.
That case still gives me chills. 3 teenagers lost their lives that night, and no one has ever been able to explain who or what attacked them. The survivor's story kept changing, and every new clue only made things more confusing. Even after all these years, Lake Bodom remains quiet, but people say if you camp near the water, you can still hear whispers in the wind. Some mysteries are never meant to be solved. Outro part. That was honestly one of the darkest collections of stories I've ever covered. From theme park tragedies to unsolved mysteries, each one reminds us how fast things can change. One second, it's laughter and lights, the next, it's silence. Some of these stories ended in heartbreak, others in questions that will never be answered. But one thing's for sure, behind every smile, every ride, every peaceful place, there's always a darker side waiting to be uncovered. So if you made it this far, Lilies, make sure to follow, like, and share, and remember, not every story has a happy ending.